I too have had some colossal failures. I remember, what was it, Home Seekers or Home Finders or something. I don't remember what it was, but I lost about 10 grand on that deal. But I've had some pretty good success with Zillow. So just find what works for you and stick to it. And remember that branding is a key to all of this. You want your name to pop up whenever they're thinking real estate.
So it seems like then the takeaway is when you come up with a marketing idea is to do it and write the check, and then make sure that you keep your metrics and know how much business you got from it, because it is too easy to write checks and realize you had no return on investment. Or you could say, gosh, I made $20,000 off this marketing, and then you realize it cost me $20,000, so you really lost money because of all the time involved.
Right.
So it's really good that you know your numbers.
So just real quick, so probably my number one source for getting leads the last several years has been Facebook. And I know, you probably came here to learn something new, but having the reiteration sometimes isn't a bad idea. And with Facebook, you kind of have to be careful, though. You have to be delicate about the things that you post. And on a side note, I feel that, I had a business Facebook page that didn't really work out well. I had a personal website. I don't know what your guys' feelings are as far as personal websites go, but things have transitioned in our marketplace to the point where consumers, they used to go to your personal website because you had access to the MLS through the IDX, and that was beneficial to them. But now consumers are going to Zillow and Redfin and Trulia and those types of sites, and that kind of fills that gap. So I got rid of my personal website. We still have a company website just because consumers want to validate who it is that they're working for or working with. But Facebook has really done it for me. And you have to be delicate about what you post and how you do it. We all know the people who rant on politics and who go out and put pictures of their baby every morning and what they're eating for lunch, and what ends up happening with those folks is your sphere becomes numb to whatever it is that you're posting,
Right.
Or they'll even end up blocking you. So you really have to be delicate about it. I post pictures of, I'll do certain things like hobbies or just whatever interest that I have, but I'll certainly do the occasional closing, but I don't inundate it. I kind of spread it out, and that has been huge for me. I get hundreds of likes, I get numerous comments, and on the back end, I get certain, private messages from people, and Facebook has just been huge. But I really would caution, about overdoing it sometimes because it can have the opposite effect. Facebook is a wonderful platform for you to grow your relationships and to broaden your sphere, but you can also, appear to be self-absorbed and narcissistic if you're not using it right. So, but that has been the number one source of leads for me. And the beauty about that is you're talking about the losses that you've had. I haven't had a whole lot of losses with Facebook because it's nothing against you guys, but it's free, right. So it's worked out from a cost-effective standpoint.
I'm glad to hear he said that stuff. No, because I don't put that much effort into Facebook. I really don't want to do Facebook. I really don't want to do Facebook. And I really have to. And thank you. I needed that.
It's a great reason.
Dave, we are about the same age. I totally get the whole thing. All right. How do you handle the amount of calls that come in so that you don't lose out on leads? Because you guys are big unit volume people. You have a lot of relationships, a lot of people know you, a lot of marketing. We know the business gets busy, it gets slow, and sometimes it gets busy. What do you do to manage all those?
Well, in my world, we have actually an office telephone number. We don't live on our cell phones. And I've done it that way for many, many, many years. A lot of realtors, they just fly by their cell phone everywhere they go. Their phone's ringing off the hook. There's no way you can manage everything going on. And I think it was probably 20 some odd years ago I got this phone number, and everything is directed to that phone number. And as my business has grown, of course, we've added lines and so on and so forth. But I have designated people to answer the phone. We're open 7 days a week. That number is forwarded to cell phones after hours. If like I'm sitting here today, I forwarded my cell phone back to that line, so anybody calling me, one of the gals will answer it, or my son, who works with me now, will answer it. We take our own, quote, floor time in the sense that we share that, and we're open from 8:30 in the morning until 7:30 at night, except for Sundays, and we close at 5 unless we're working on something, and then we'll go ahead and take the calls. But the reality of it is you have to draw lines, and you have to have boundaries somewhere. So when you meet your clients, it's okay to say, look, we're open from X to X. please feel free to leave a message. We'll call you back. We're great at returning phone calls quickly. But there's no way you can handle every single phone call yourself. So, you have to understand that in order for your business to grow and in order for you to capture more business, you need quality people to help you. And if the phone, which is, I actually use a phone as a phone. I talk on the phone all the time. But it's important that you just keep that in mind. As far as the internet leads go, we handle it the same way. And whether they're sign calls, ad calls from the newspaper, sometimes people go online and they do check websites and they do check resumes and things like that, and you get a phone call. And, there's a lot of people that still function that way, so it's important to just make sure that you have a human being to answer the phone, and that if you know you can't answer your phone, you forward it to somebody that will answer it for you, and you can work it out that way.
I work on the opposite spectrum. I only use my cell phone, and I try to always answer it, and if I can't, I try to return the call within the hour, which isn't great.
It's all right.
The way you have it sounds much more pleasant, but I can't let it go. I've tried doing other things, and I just feel like having me there and answering my line really makes the difference with some of these clients. So far, that's still what I'm doing.
You sound like the typical neurotic success story. And I fall in the same category. I can't stand having, as a consumer, I can't stand if I'm trying to get a hold of somebody, and then a few hours later I call them again, and then a few hours later I call them again, and then after a while you're like, okay, is the person going to return my calls? And then the next day, it's like, I shouldn't have to beg for a return phone call.
That's right.
And I get real frustrated when it's another agent in a transaction. It's like you shouldn't have to beg the other agent to return your phone calls. And some agents are notorious where it's like, please, could you just acknowledge that you're alive?
Right.
Okay. So the phone calls are not my challenge as much as emails. Oh my God. In fact, I went back to going back to my old emails because I said, let's start an email campaign. Just that little drip system, trying to keep it, relevant, not too often, so people don't put me down as spam. And so I went back to my closed escrow files, and it was 2003 was the first year that I had any accumulation of email addresses. 2001, 2002, like maybe a few, but almost none. 2003 was the first year. And it's weird because you think about emails being around forever. My first cell phone I got in 1988. Okay, 2003 was, I started seeing email addresses come in. And so now you get bombarded with emails, bombarded. Yep. And so I find that, and the challenge is, of course, is to not let email dominate your productive time.
Right.
And that becomes a growing challenge. Early in our career, you got up and you had a few phone calls, but you had nothing else going on. You had no excuse. Now you can sit there on your computer for hours thinking like you're actually doing something. And this is where staffing helps because I'll move a lot of my emails over to staffing. My assistant Soleil runs my office, she does a great job, so a huge volume of follow-up stuff. She handles it. In fact, I always assist if you're in a transaction with me, copy her because vast majority of the time she's going to be the one that's going to respond. It's like if it needs my attention, great, but so much of it is like, okay, you didn't send over the form. Well, she handles that. That's a lot of our emails. But I would say phone calls, that's not my challenge. Now, my passion is not to work weekends. I don't want to work Saturdays and Sundays. I really, really, really desire, after it's now 29 years in real estate, I want to get a life. I want to have a life. And I think you can have that. I don't work that many evenings anymore. I used to work, it seems like every night. I worked every Saturday, Sunday, and I was constantly in a state of success and burnout. For me, it's like, yes, I always work through the weekends where it's like phone calls, emails, I'm working on an offer, something like that. But if I can wear my shorts, t-shirt, and I have dirt all over me, I'm thrilled. I like to dirt bike ride. My other side of my whole persona is my happiness is when I'm like elbows deep in dirt and having fun in the yard. But the fact is that if I can not wear a suit, not get dressed up for work on the weekend, that's my success. I am thrilled with that. And so with that, with the two buyer's agents, my wife is a third one, but she passionately doesn't want to work either. So with that, is that they're taking care of the buyer business, and most of your listing business you're handling through phone and email. It's more and more your customers, 'cause especially now with DocuSign, boy, that's a gift. That was like designed for real estate. But move on. But the fact is that the phone calls I don't find to be as nearly the challenge. Now, with that said, your follow-up phone calls with your customers, that becomes a priority. And that's where you can easily neglect your business, is where the customers feel like you don't care anymore. And that becomes an important part of your business, is just making sure that your customers are physically hearing from you. Yes, they like to text, they like to email, but some of them do like to get that phone call once in a while, and you can lose valuable customers because they never heard from you.
Yep, that's a good point.
So as far as returning phone calls and things like that, and when I do these types of panels, I like to make a promise to myself and to the audience that I will be completely upfront and transparent and not add fluff to any of my responses.
Right.
And I got to be honest, I'm not the best at as far as returning phone calls, and I kind of categorize them and prioritize them in certain ways. So if I get a phone call from like a referral, if someone texts or emails and calls and says, BJ, you helped so-and-so buy a house, yada, yada, then they're going to get a phone call right away, because the likelihood of that particular lead coming to fruition and becoming a closed transaction is very, very high. So I'm going to reach out to that person immediately. The client has already done the heavy lifting. I'm usually not competing against anyone else, and it's really an easy deal for me. But there are certain situations, and I invest in homes and land, just like you do, Dave. I invest in postcard marketing. I invest in certain things in the community, to where I need to do a better job of, when I get a phone call, returning that phone call or passing that on to someone in my one of the agents in my office to have them do it. Otherwise, it's not a very good business practice to put money into that type of advertising and to not truly follow up on the phone call. So I feel like I just went through confession, and I hope you guys forgive me about that. But it is something that I do need to improve on. But I would like just to real quick, if we could, I know you're moderating, but
No, go for it.
Okay, I think it'd be a good idea to explain or talk to the audience about our team, like if we're on a team, how that's structured, if we have, the personnel that we have at the office, if you guys wouldn't mind
That's
doing
a good
that.
idea.
Sure.
Why don't you start?
Okay, I will. So, so Comfort is an office of about 20 to 22 agents, and we're a small brokerage, and I think that's a little bit different than what you guys have got going. And but I am a broker of record, but I also I produce. That's obviously why I'm up here. I represent buyers and sellers, and I have been particularly spread thin the last few years just because of some of my association involvement at the Board of Realtors. So I don't necessarily have a team. I don't have a group that's like bringing in leads, but when I do get a client, I will likely add someone from my office to help me facilitate that transaction. Sometimes I'll do it myself, but it's been very helpful to have people at the office that I can, kind of plug in and add them to the transaction, and then we work out kind of a commission arrangement that way.
There's 7 in my team, including myself. I have Soleil, who's my office manager. I